this video, we're going to, well, first I'm going to talk through and then we'll demo another co-founder activity aimed at increasing awareness of one another's strengths and weaknesses and how they show up at work, and with the goal of getting into the nuance and really listening to your co-founder to understand how they see that strength and some of the challenges that inevitably come with any strength, and getting into the complexity of that so that you can work better with one another, assign projects more efficiently, and just know each other more fully. So the way that this one works is each person one of the co-founders will share a strength, and then your job is to sort of interview them about that for about 3 minutes. So whoever's running the meeting can watch the clock and sort of manage to around that length. And some of the questions you might ask is, what's one strength of yours? What's a recent example of that at work? What do you love about having that strength? What's hard about that? What's a corresponding weakness, or what's a blind spot that maybe comes up from having that strength? And you can even start to make some guesses at what those could be to help you better understand what and experience both that strength and some of the challenges of it. Tips: don't assume, let your co-founder say the strength and offer nuance. A lot of what's important is that you really hear them and kind of capture the complexity as they see it of having that strength. Practicing empathic listening, so paying attention to some of the detail that shows up for them, being present as they talk through this difference, and that'll build trust in your co-founder relationship. And then, being curious, following your curiosity, allowing for that, double check on something that they say to make sure that you understand it. Maybe they're talking about this more deeply for the first time, so you can help clarify different elements to really get a good locked in sense of that strength and how they're working.
Excellent. So I was wondering what one strength is that you'd like to share with me is, and potentially a recent example or example of that strength in action.
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty curious person about the world around me. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned to direct that curiosity towards other people as well. And I think there's some obvious benefits and applications in a coaching context where that's really helpful. I think being curious about the other person allows you to really ask questions from a place of genuine openness and curiosity as to what the answer might be or what the other person will say. And I think that sense of possibility really creates a space too for the client and the other person to really answer truthfully and answer from their heart. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm hearing curiosity, and I like your naming that it can be both directed at the world and other places that you might be curious, as well as interpersonally with people, which shows up in your work and can be powerful in that context. And then I heard something about genuine openness, which to me, I had a little bit of a story of that there's work to create space for something unexpected to happen. Is that right? Is that what genuine openness means to you?
Yeah. And this happens not only in a coaching context, but I think anytime we're in conversation with someone where, sometimes when we ask a question, maybe it's kind of like a leading question in that we have a preferred answer, or we think we know what the person's going to say, because we're kind of more focused on maybe our own experience or our own perspectives or opinions on the topic at hand. And so I think having and holding that sense of curiosity is really important to just kind of helping the other person sense and feel no, I'm genuinely curious about where you're coming from on this. And I don't have any preferred or right answer here. It's really just wanting to hear what you have to say and how you're feeling about it.
Amazing. Yeah, I pick up for myself some relaxation when it's that you genuinely don't have that preferred element. I guess I would guess that maybe that's a superpower when it comes to collaboration, or maybe expansiveness, that there's some capacity to go, to explore more broadly, and then from there to narrow in. Is that true?
Yeah, I think like curiosity is definitely helpful in any situation where you're trying to be more generative and, whether that's a brainstorming conversation or, yeah, so I think that's like a really obvious application. And I think another area where it can be really useful is if it's a situation with some kind of conflict or some
Mm,
tension, I think, or also just when emotions are high. And I think it, I think it creates a space in those situations for more dialogue. Again, like a small opening,
yeah.
um, for really strong perspectives to coexist at the same time, and to just
Mm,
have that possibility and that reality be something that you can hold and you can sit with.
amazing. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. It's both generation of ideas and directions, but also holding more and an openness to hold more, which allows for healthy conflict, which again, yeah, what a superpower. Um, Checking in on just the other side of things. So I get that the curiosity is beneficial in these ways. I'm wondering if there is a weakness or a less positive side about being a curious person that you've noticed for yourself, and what that is, so I can be more aware of that as your teammate.
I think sometimes staying in the realm of curiosity for too long can
Hmm.
potentially, delay decisions. Um, and I think I have noticed a tendency maybe to be a bit more indecisive in myself. And so I think sometimes this element of curiosity, but I think maybe there's also a thread here that touches on my like kind of desire to optimize as well, right? Like always
Mm,
looking for like a better or best solution. I think sometimes the curiosity can enable that. And sometimes the situation just calls for acting and moving ahead without knowing all of the information that you might prefer to have to make a decision. So I think like that's one way where it can sometimes, that's like the flip side potentially.
I love that. Super clear that there's both the timeline question of how long to be in that generative place before going a certain direction, and then also just an awareness that sometimes it's helpful to go a specific way without optimizing or maximizing, and that those are opportunities to kind of figure out when to choose which. Is there anything I can do to support in that, like, time boxing if there's a creative process that we're in, or noting if a specific decision that I'm getting your help on is one that maybe doesn't need to be uh, optimized necessarily, and so that we don't need to go down too many roads on that piece? Or yeah, any thoughts? Those are two that came up for me, but anything that you would suggest for working with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, those are both great ideas. I think what has worked in the past has been like this combination of time boxing and just being very clear on when we're in like one mode versus another, like we're going to take the next hour or the next week to really generate ideas, possibilities, options here. But then at the end, we're going to be switching pretty clearly into evaluation, filtering, whittling down mode. Um, and I think just having those clear demarcations can be helpful in setting those boundaries.
Perfect. I'm happy to join you in time boxing and doing some demarcation. And yeah, I'm just so happy to know about this more clearly, so that I, one, know I can go to you during times when I feel stuck and maybe want to explore more, and also that conflict is something that it seems like can be brought into decision making that you feel comfortable holding. I don't need to worry as much about that. So thanks for telling me more about your curiosity, and looking forward to working together more.
Yeah, same. Thanks so much for asking and taking the time to listen, Nathan.
So thanks for listening into this demo of the prompt naming strengths and weaknesses. As a quick synthesis and reminder of how this goes and how you can use it with your co-founder. The purpose is to identify strengths and to start to understand that strengths come with corresponding weaknesses. And when you can tie those two things together, you can develop empathy for your co-founders' strengths and how they also create blind spots and weaknesses. The exercise is naming strengths and weaknesses. It's an interview style, should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes per person, and is a great tool for you to continue to know and strengthen your co-founder relationship. Thanks.